All right, we're live.
All right, good afternoon. This is Monday, May 10th. It is 3:03 p.m. We're a little late getting started. This is the regularly scheduled virtual meeting of the Lincoln County Board of Commissioners. And the first item is called the meeting to order, which I have now done. We have a quorum. All three commissioners are present. Next item on our agenda is recognition and proclamation. So resolution recognizing National Peace Officer Memorial Day. And I will ask Commissioner Hall to read the proclamation. And then I understand we have Sheriff Landers and Curtis Bertner to address us. And go ahead, Commissioner Hall.
Thank you, Chair Hunt. Yes, this does proclaim May 15th, 2021 as National Peace Officers Memorial Day, and also proclaims May 9th through 15th, 2021 as National Police Week in Lincoln County. Whereas the Congress and President of the United States have designated May 15th as Peace Officers Memorial Day and the week in which it falls as National Police Week. Whereas the members of the law enforcement agencies in Lincoln County play an essential role in safeguarding the rights and freedoms of the citizens of Lincoln County. Whereas it is important that all citizens know and understand the problems, duties, and responsibilities of their police agencies, and that members of our police agencies recognize their duty to serve the people by safeguarding life and property, by protecting them against violence and disorder, and by protecting the innocent against deception and the weak against coercion or intimidation. And whereas the men and women of the police agencies of Lincoln County continuously provide a vital public service, now therefore the Lincoln County Board of Commissioners call upon all citizens of Lincoln County and upon all patriotic, civic, and educational organizations to observe the week of May 9th through 15th, 2021 as National Police Week, in which all citizens are encouraged to honor police officers, past and present, who, by their faithful and loyal devotion to their responsibilities, have provided dedicated service to their communities, and in so doing, have established for themselves an enviable and enduring reputation for preserving the rights and security of all citizens. We further call upon all citizens of Lincoln County to observe Saturday, May 15th, 2021 as National Peace Officers Memorial Day in honor of those law enforcement officers who, through their courageous deeds, have made the ultimate sacrifice in service to their community or have become disabled in the performance of duty, and to recognize and pay respect to the survivors of our fallen heroes.
Thank you, Commissioner Hall. Sheriff Landers or Lieutenant Bertner?
I'm going to turn it over to Lieutenant Bertner first. I think he has something prepared to discuss with you.
All right, welcome.
Thank you very much. I do have a prepared speech, an amendment to a little bit of the language we just saw there that Commissioner Hall read. In 1962, President Kennedy proclaimed May 15th as National Police Officers Memorial Day and a calendar week in which May 15th falls as National Police Week. Established by a joint resolution of Congress, National Police Week pays special recognition to those law enforcement officers that sacrifice their lives in the line of duty for the safety and protection of others. There are over 22,217 names engraved on a National Law Enforcement Memorial. On average, 163 officers are killed each year. I am grateful we are honoring those who have given their lives in service. I pray we can lessen the number of lives lost in the future. Today, I'm not going to focus solely on those who have lost their lives in the line of duty. I want to bring attention to the men and women who've taken their own life as a result of serving as a police officer. Police officers are seeing people in their worst days of their lives. They encounter tragedy, grief, intense suffering, and heinous crimes. The average person only experiences these horrific events once or twice in their lifetime. Police officers are experiencing these events regularly. It is easy to think that traumatic events police officers encounter shouldn't affect them because it's their job. The reality is that a police officer is still human. We hire people with compassion and train them into this job. What we don't train on, or effectively train on, is what to do with all the trauma police officers experience. From 2018 to 2020, 597 officers died in the line of duty. Excluding COVID-19 deaths, 365 officers lost their lives. During the same time frame, 478 took their own lives, a large majority with their own service weapons. More lives were lost to self-harm than caused by homicidal violence and work-related incidents combined. This is a clear indication that we are not addressing work-related traumatic events. Serving in law enforcement is a great honor. However, the job comes with unintended consequences. In our profession, we have a lot of individuals experiencing some form of PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. One of the challenges in addressing trauma is that a traumatic incident for one officer may not be traumatic for another. In addition, recent studies have shown it may not be one significant event that causes PTSD, but a culmination of experiences that have occurred over a prolonged career. The data indicates that repeated traumatic events build up because the average years of service for officers who take their own life is 15.71 years. Until recently, the culture in law enforcement has been more of a don't ask, don't share. But the culture has begun to change. Institutionally, we are making it more acceptable to openly talk about our own mental health and the terrible tragedies we experience in the line of duty. As the culture shifts, it will take strong leaders to help normalize these tough conversations. With support from our agencies and the community, we can continue to address mental health concerns. Our goal in being these leaders is to help support officers and make professional support available. By doing so, we can minimize the impact of traumatic experiences and not affect the perceptions and actions on our police officers, both on and off duty. In 2019, Oregon lawmakers recognized this need and passed Senate Bill 507. It was subsequently signed into law by Governor Brown. The law provides first responders access to services including medical professionals for any mental disorder, whether sudden or gradual onset, which requires medical services to result in physical and mental disability or death. The Lincoln County Sheriff's Office, we also recognize the need for additional support for our team members. In 2017, we began developing an employee wellness program which encompasses mental health awareness. This program is designed to train our team members how to recognize early signs and symptoms of stress or PTSD-related injuries for themselves and others. Once recognized, the program outlines resources and best practices for treatment to include seeking professional help. There is still more work to be done. As I come to a close, I want to recognize again the thousands of men and women who gave their life in the line of duty, but also those thousands of officers who took their own lives as a result of the exposures to the tragedies and traumas experienced in law enforcement, as these individuals are the true guardians of our society. Thank you.
Thank you. Sheriff Landers, anything to add?
Well, Lieutenant Bertner really made a clear point on this whole thing, and it's hard to add much more except for the fact that I would say that the 400 and something deaths that occurred by the officer taking their own life, as far as I'm concerned, those are preventable. A lot of the other ones are not, and but those are. And so, I think you heard some efforts that we're taking in our own office and others around the state to try to address those issues, probably long overdue. I remember when I started, it was really just, suck it up and get out there. It's a tough job, but you got to do it type thing. And it's just not the way, we're human beings and a lot of people can only take so much. And so we need to address those needs I'm glad that Lieutenant Bertner brought that part up. And I'll just leave it at that and answer any questions or thoughts that you may have.
Okay, thank you both. Commissioner Jacobson, comments, thoughts, questions?
The one thing I would say, just to add on to what Sheriff Landers just said, is, not only are people human beings and they, need to process those feelings and the trauma they've encountered, but it's also not responsible and sort of dump it on their families to be that person that then has to process that with them. That it's not just about the person experiencing that themselves or the officer, but the health of the family as well.
All right, Commissioner Hull.
Sure, I'm glad to chime in. I think it's everything that has been said here is important, and I'll tell us a story. the connection to what we're talking about here today might not immediately be clear to people, but I hope it will be at the end. Through the years, when citizens scrutinize our budget pretty carefully, they, a couple of people have basically been annoyed, confused when they see that sheriff's budget includes a uniform cleaning allowance. And I explain that that's actually a pretty standard benefit for sheriff's offices and police agencies across the country. Frankly, I was not long after one of those conversations speaking with a spouse of a retired officer in the county, and she kind of paused, a heartfelt sigh, and she said she was so grateful when that went in because she knew that she would never again have to launder her husband's bloody uniform after he had pulled someone from a serious car wreck. So, yeah, I think acknowledging that, like everyone else, officers are human beings. They're coping with multiple traumatic situations, far more in the average year than most of us, and that deserves acknowledgement and respect. And I'm certainly glad that we can once again offer this annual acknowledgement.
All right, thank you. And I'm going to share a personal experience that I had, and I think it relates to the delayed consequences and, frankly, what has been a positive change in providing support services to our law enforcement officers. When I was a brand new banker, I'd literally started my career in banking in early in 1973. In October of 1973, I was at the Hollywood Rose City branch of what at the time was First National Bank of Oregon. It was a Friday night, and it was about 6:30, and I heard a ruckus at the back entry door, and two gunmen came in with masks and proceeded to rob the branch. This is all public record, so I'm not disclosing anything. And I had a .357 Magnum stuck in my back. Well, the robbers proceeded to determine how many other employees were in the building and then access vaults. And I can tell you, having a gun in my back, looking at a wall and wondering if I would see anything ever again was tremendously traumatic. At that time, the bank did little to help individuals address those stresses. Nowadays, they have employee assistance services, but I can tell you, certainly not the stress that a law enforcement officer deals with daily, but at the same time, it gave me a perspective that resonates very loud with today's proclamation. So my sincere gratitude for our law enforcement officers. Every day you get up and you don't know what your day is going to be like, and that certainly is extraordinarily stressful. So my sincere thanks. Appreciate the great work that our law enforcement officers do in Lincoln County, and I think, as I've said before, the sheriff has been innovative in some of the programs, and I know he's got a good team working with him. So the last thing I will say is congratulations, Lieutenant Vertner, recent promotion. So good work and well done. So anything more? I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move that we adopt Resolution 2110-5A proclaiming May 15th National Peace Officers Memorial Day and May 9th through 15th as National Police Week in Lincoln County.
And I will second the motion.
All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
And that motion passes. And again, my thanks to all for the the risks they take and the good work they do. Thank you.
Thank you, commissioners.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Next item on our agenda would be the adoption of the consent calendar. These are items of a routine nature or items that have come before the board previously. At this time, if a staff member or commissioner wish to highlight an item, they may do so. Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion to adopt the consent calendar as presented.
I will make a motion to adopt this consent calendar as presented.
And I'll second the motion.
All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
That motion carries. All right, we'll move on to reports. And first item is the public health COVID-19 update. I believe we have both our interim public health officer, Florence Portel, and our, well, maybe we do not have our public information officer, Susan Drexel. Welcome, Florence.
Thank you, Commissioner Hunt. Florence Portal, Interim Health Department Director. Okay, thank you so much for pulling the slides. Okay, let's scroll down. So we thought we would give you kind of an overview of what's going on in Oregon in terms of cases. As you can see, the month of April, we saw a surge, and it seems to start to be behind us, which is really, really good news. And according to Dean Seidlinger, who is the state health officer, we were on a call with him on Friday last week, and he thinks that we're not going to see a surge like this again in a while. And this is probably due to, the ongoing vaccination efforts that we have seen. So this is, hopeful news. You can slide down, please. Scroll down.
We understood.
Yeah, sorry, that happens sometimes. I apologize. So as you can see, we're seeing a similar trend so far in Lincoln County. So we saw our surge for the month of April, consistent with what the state saw, and we are now 10 days in at 17 cases. We've even had a few days without any cases reported to us, which is really good. And so the graph below that kind of shows you the 7-day moving average, and you can really see it coming down in May. So hopefully that's gonna keep going in that direction. Let's scroll down, please. Thank you. So this is the testing happening in Lincoln County, and as you can see that the testing has gone up in April, and this is likely because of the increase in cases that we've seen. Our test positivity rate is pretty steady. This is only giving us the data until May 2nd, but I believe I saw an email just maybe an hour ago with a positivity rate of just over 2%, which is also a good sign. Scroll down, please. Thank you. So this week is not a movement week. This week is a warning week, and but if we were a movement week, we would move to moderate, because as you can see, we're at 89.1 case per 100,000, which is good. So that trend, as we've seen earlier, definitely is steadily decreasing, and unless we have any major outbreak going on this week, let's hope that we will be able to move back down next week. But we'll know more. We still need about a week of data before we can predict that move. You can scroll down. So as you can see, and the majority of the state is still in high risk, and that makes sense. If the state has gone through surge, well, everybody had to go back up in risk levels, and I'm anticipating that we're gonna see a trend down also, and that maybe next week or the week after that we'll see more yellow counties on the map. So that I think this is all very, very consistent with the data we're presenting. You can scroll down. Okay, so just a quick conversation about the variants. So definitely the variants we have been seeing most. So the one that is really taking hold in Oregon is the B117, which is the variant coming from the UK. And it is more transmissible, and it is also showing more severe illnesses, and especially in younger folks. And this, I believe, for the past week, 75% of the test results that were sent to sequencing showed a B117 variant in that. So this is definitely taking hold in the States. And then today, the World Health Organization, otherwise known as WHO, announced that there is a new variant of concern, and this is the variant out of India. As you know, there is a gigantic outbreak in India at this time. And so this new variant is B1617. So it seems that it is a more contagious variant, and that it seems that there is evidence that it might evade vaccine. So we'll have to follow a little bit closely on this, and we will let you know. You can scroll down. All right, maybe I'll break here, see if there are any questions when it comes to cases and trends and variants before I move on to vaccination.
Questions? That looks like we're all okay for the moment. Go ahead, Florence.
Okay, all right, excellent. So vaccination trends, we're still doing pretty good. Number one in the state for percentage of population series complete, yay to us. And number two in percentage of population vaccinated. You know, we're really doing good. We're now, and I'm gonna discuss this a little bit further, but we're now definitely hitting a different population, right? Like we know we have vaccinated mostly all people who really wanted a vaccine, who were really following on where and when they can get a vaccine. All those folks have been taken care of. We're now getting to populations who might be hesitant for whatever reason, populations who might want a vaccine as long as it's convenient to them to receive it. There are probably still populations who are having real difficulties in accessing the vaccine and or even getting information as to where to get a vaccine. And so this is shifting our focus in terms of strategy and where we want to move forward. Let's scroll down, please.
So Florence, before you move on, I participated in a virtual meeting with a representative of the governor's office and chairs of the board of commissioners from throughout the state. And the discussion was really focused on how to increase the percentage of people that are vaccinated. But I don't know if your ears were burning or not, but I took a special moment to recognize our public health department and our partners in other volunteers in our county and recognize them as part of the effort that resulted in us in being number one in the percentage of people that have been fully vaccinated in the state. So a big shout out went to that group of commissioner and the Leah Horner, who's representative from the governor's office.
Well, thank you so much. I'll definitely pass that on. You know that this is definitely the fuel that keeps us all going, right? So thank you for acknowledging the work.
Well deserved and well earned.
Right on. You can scroll down. Okay, so one of the things I will discuss further, but one of the goals we're having is that we want to really make it easier for people to access information, especially about events, vaccination locations that are happening in Lincoln County. And so we're really going with like a motto of less is more. As much as possible. And so you will see that we're, one of the duties of the communications team is going to be to clean up a little bit the website, maybe to link some, there's so much information on the website that, and the information, with COVID is evolving so much and so often that I think we're going to link back out to the CDC website, link back out to the Oregon Health Authority website for overall kind of like COVID education and information, and really focus in on this is what's going on in Lincoln County. This is where you get the test. This is where you get a vaccine. This is who you call. If you have question about, the type of vaccines, here is some really kind of like easy to get to and to understand information. So this is one of the focus that we are taking. So that's one of the examples is that now we have a little calendar. It's on the website. The links are clickable. They're going to lead you directly to the sign up for that particular clinic. One thing that is really important to note is that all clinics now welcome walk-ins. Okay, so you need a first dose, you need a second dose. As long as you come to a clinic, as long as you come to, let's say you need a second dose of Pfizer, please do not go to the Moderna clinic because we will not serve you. But you could walk into a Pfizer clinic if you are within the 3 weeks, and you should be able to be seen. So that's a big change. We're trying to make it easier for people to access the vaccine. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is what I was discussing. We are really so we've been meeting with the teams. Extremely interesting to get everybody's thoughts and really like come back to the table and acknowledge the new context, the new reality in which we are right now, and really adjusting our strategies to ensure that we will be able to reach those folks we haven't reached yet. And so definitely the refocus on Lincoln County specific messaging, focusing on going, even though we're still gonna have some clinics that have been standing for months now remain, and those are mostly gonna be the Samaritan clinics in Newport and Lincoln City and the Taft Fire Station Clinic. We will retire the fairgrounds and we will retire Wildport at the end of this month. Okay, so at the end of May, no earlier. I had a call earlier from a concerned citizen who said she had heard somewhere that one clinic was retired already. And I said, no, don't worry, you still have your second dose clinic scheduled. So this is only happening at the end of May. And so then we're retiring this clinic so that we can reshift the focus on going to people and driving our strategies and where we are going to go on two main things. One, we want the strategy to be data driven, right? And so we're working now on exploiting the data from the immunization systems so that we know what are maybe the age groups that still need vaccinated, where are the areas in our county where we could, focus a little bit more, either our outreach, our messaging, our communication, and then of course send some clinics there. So this is one. And the other piece is we are also wanting to make sure that partners know, businesses know, organizations know that they can reach out to us and ask us, hey, would you be willing to do a clinic here? We think we could reach out to this population. And we've already successfully done that a few times now. Once in Yahats, once at the Port of Toledo last week, and we have a few more organizations that have requested some clinics. So that's really, really good. And then of course, like the last piece is making sure that we understand what's going on with people. I don't want us to operate from or assume what barriers are or why are people hesitant and things like this. So I think we're gonna have a team really going out and talking to the groups we've identified who still need vaccinated and trying to really understand what's driving the hesitation and try to address that for them. And hopefully that's gonna help. So all of this is we're finalizing the planning, but I think we are good. We're reshuffling a few people here and there to be able to refocus the work. But based on also what was shared at the state level on Friday, I think we're definitely well aligned with where the state is going as well. Next slide, please. You can pass this one. I'm not sure. I didn't want this one in the. Okay, so this is just kind of a recap of what I just talked about in a logical model type frame. So what are we putting in? What are our strategies? What are we trying to do? And what would we want? Our goal as a team would be to vaccinate a minimum of 80% of all eligible populations by the end of December in Lincoln County. And so we're gonna work hard at this, and we want to, of course, ground the work in data and prioritize the work in data. Make sure that we continue and sustain our partnership with all our amazing partners. Like discussed, focus the communication on Lincoln County, and then also there's a lot of work to be done on engaging the primary care system in how they are thinking and planning on administering the vaccines within their practice. So yeah, this is what we've been up to. Next slide, and I think we should be at the end of this presentation. Yeah, there you go. Any questions?
Commissioner, questions? Katie's microphone turned green first.
It's always a race with players who can turn on the microphone first. I feel a little stuck on information. I had not seen it previously that potentially the variant in India is vaccine resistant. It's super scary. I had heard that there was a variant. I didn't hear the information that potentially that was vaccine resistant. So I'm still kind of shocked with that news. And all the more reason to get vaccinated, which seems contradictory, but it will not mutate if it can't replicate. I guess in terms of our outreach here locally with vaccination clinics, I'm really glad we're to the walk-in point. I do think that's helping quite a bit. I will say that I think sometimes we get a little confused between barriers and resistance when it comes to vaccines. Those are two different things. You might have a barrier to getting vaccinated, like transportation, but you're not necessarily resistant to getting vaccinated, and there's people that are just resistant. And it sounds like we're shifting more to doing vaccines where people are at, which I think is going to deal with a lot of those barriers. And I hope by the end, when we deal with the barriers, that a lot of our resistant folks kind of get there or follow suit. My understanding is that some counties have, in Oregon, I think of at least one, have successfully done a door-to-door approach. I don't mean door-to-door for people that are homebound. I know we have already done that in this county, but I mean truly door-to-door in the evening and knocking on neighborhoods and trying to get people vaccinated. I'd really like to try to see if that is something we can implement here. Especially if we look at some of our, maybe higher risk neighborhoods where people are kind of on top of each other. We have places where we have people living in storage units and that kind of stuff that may have barriers to actually getting to a clinic. So the go-to approach might reduce some of those barriers. I also heard a nice suggestion today from a constituent that said to offer vaccines at all of our many farmers markets. That happens throughout the community that start up about this time of year when the weather gets nice. So I'm glad we're making that shift as more vaccine is available to kind of be more out and about in the community. And I think we're also to the point where we need everybody's help and helping us reach those harder to reach people, and also volunteers helping at those clinics and helping to do the outreach and knocking on the doors and kind of, getting the people out that need the help to get there.
Commissioner Hall?
I don't really think I've got any questions. I think there's a lot of good news here. I mean, cases down, vaccinations up. To me, that's it in a nutshell. And sounds like a lot of good strategic thinking is going on. I mean, getting to a minimum of 80% by December, 15% more, maybe more. That seems like an achievable goal, especially with some of the strategies that you're already pursuing, and I'm sure will continue to evolve in the months ahead.
Yes, and so now one of the push we have with the state is also make sure that we get a supply of Johnson & Johnson, just so that that helps also with the pop-up and mobile. So we'll see.
Okay, very good. So I'm going to follow up on a comment that Commissioner Jacobson made, and it has to do with barriers. How are we going to address the barrier that's created relative to transportation when we close the Waldport Clinic at the end of May? I assume there obviously will still be people that either are getting their first vaccination or their second, and I think it's a barrier if we don't at least have a clinic there on some kind of availability.
Yeah, so and we could totally revisit that decision. The partner who is operating that clinic really we're having a lot of issues with no-shows, even no-shows for their second doses at that clinic. It's starting to become not necessarily a very efficient way to spend time. It doesn't mean that we couldn't do a little mobile clinic here and there with the Samaritan bus or anything else. It's just that at this time, for example, the event in Yahat that we did a few weeks ago was very successful, and it's likely that we could do, more. It's just that at this point in Waldport, it seemed like the demand hasn't really been there. And maybe once we have a little bit more knowledge and understanding of why that is, we can then adjust and come back. Like I'm not at all opposed to, putting back some vaccinations in there if people want it.
Okay.
Absolutely.
My only other thought would be maybe we can work with the city and the city council and try to get the message out. Clearly, if there isn't a demand, those resources can be used elsewhere. But Again, to the barrier issue, I think we should at least first make sure we've done our due diligence in trying to make the vaccine available and encourage the people to receive it. So that would be the only comment that I have. Otherwise, it's tough to argue with declining cases, the highest rate of vaccination in the state, and trends that indicate we, in all likelihood, will be going to the moderate risk level a week from today. Well, the end of next week. Commissioner Jacobson, you had your hand up.
Yeah, just a thought to your comments about Waldport. I know that we have done some partnerships with schools to try to get 16-year-olds and up vaccinated. Have we done a partnership with schools in Waldport for that similar thing? And I guess the second part of my question is anticipated that this week, I think by Wednesday, that the FDA will approve vaccines for ages 12 to 15-year-olds. And so perhaps that's enough for those barriers there, but also to hopefully hit that new target population of kids, which is 12 to 15 that we anticipate coming.
Yes, thank you for this comment. So two answers. Yes, we are working with the school district on a weekly basis, and we're having a second dose clinic tomorrow at Newport High School. And then the school reached back out to the folks who are eligible right now, and we have an additional 20-ish students who want a first dose, so we're going to make that happen as well. In terms of the 12 and older, so we are awaiting the decision from FDA, hopefully on Wednesday, and we are in the planning stages with the school district. So because we have a really small window of opportunity, right? Because school is out June 15, I believe. So working backwards, we have pretty much 2 weeks we can work with to ensure that we can do first and second doses. So we've already identified the schools where we could have those events, and we could do that, within 4 days. So the school is right now working, trying to get some consent forms to parents to see if we could gather those ahead of the decision, so that when the decision is made, we can roll with clinics there. So yeah, we're trying to work on this as well. And to your question about we worked with the school in Wildport, yes, and so far I think there's been like maybe 6 or 7 students who've expressed interest in getting vaccinated.
Thank you for that. I guess the last thing I would just add on the school piece is we do have several private schools, or I should say non-school district schools. So just a reminder to, work with them. We have Career Tech High School in Lincoln City. We also have, which will have kids that are old enough. We also have Eddyville Charter, so I don't know if you have connected with them as well, but they might have been missed.
Yes, no, we had an event at the Taft High School last week, and Eddyville, we're planning an event there on the 20th. So
awesome. Thank you, Florence.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So, Florence, I thought of a question relative to the India variant. How prevalent is it in our county and the state?
I don't think we have that data yet.
Okay.
I think it's just like worldwide concern about this variant.
Well, if we don't have any data, I guess you could interpret that as a positive.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else on the COVID pandemic? All right. Thank you for another informative presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Next, we'll move on to the Echo Mountain fire update. And I think we have a broad group of people today Jacobson, Counselor Belmont, and Director Kenyon. So who wants to go first? Oh, we'll let Councilor Belmont frame the conversation.
Thank you, Chair Hunt. This is Wayne Belmont, County Council, and I'm just going to note that we are continuing a number of initiatives across both state and federal boundaries for our survivors, and they will continue on for a lengthy period of time. So you're seeing a lot of repetition in our updates on this thing. It's because these activities will be going on for quite a long time. The one that I wanted to note first and foremost is that when we started the process dealing with the interim housing for survivors, as you may recall, we pushed hard for the direct housing initiative, which provided the actual units for people provided by FEMA for survivors. And the initial count of the number of units that would be needed was 19. And we had pressed to say that we thought maybe there would be a need for more. We were concerned that some of the folks that may not have expressed a desire for those units initially might have changed circumstances as this goes along, and sure enough, that is the case. But we did learn last week that there is additional units being sought for the Logan Road site up there, and we'll move that number from the original 19, it might have been a 20 that they actually put in, but they're hoping to move up to 23. And that may include at least having one that's available for any other changes that occur out there. But they have been responsive to the need out there, and that's been, I think, extremely important. The other thing is, and I'll let Commissioner Jacobson talk at length, but we have been really working hard at seeking additional financial resources on a number of projects related to wildfire recovery. And it's been an interesting process, to say the least, in terms of what qualifies for additional funding and what does not. But I'll let her talk about that more directly. And with that, I'm going to quit and let others talk.
All right. Who would like to go next?
Why don't I go ahead and go next, because I actually have very little to say. I'm Roy Kenyon, Lincoln County Public Works Director. I think as I reported last week, there was going to be basically a 2-week pause for testing. This will be the beginning of week 2. So there's not a lot of things moving right now. The areas that were cleaned are being tested to make sure that they actually meet all of the guidelines. And so hopefully next week they'll start finishing up the remaining tax lots for cleanup. And that is my report.
Thank you, Director. We saved the best for last. Commissioner Jacobs.
Aw, feel the love. Yeah, so I was asked to testify last week on HB 3127, the state funding package for wildfire relief for the whole state, not just for Echo Mountain Fire. So I'm just going to read you what that funding package has in it in relation to Lincoln County. It goes on for several pages, but just for Lincoln County. And I should say it's still going through its process. It's not been approved yet, so these numbers could obviously change. But there was $1.8 million asked for Panther Creek water tank replacement, another $15 million to Panther Creek Water District for tie-ins, switching out meters that they were actually in the process of doing when the fire came and the new meters were all burned, as well as getting up to code with fire hydrants, which also means getting bigger pipes to do that. And I'm not a water person, so don't ask me a lot of questions about that, but that is in there. Also for Lincoln County is kind of boosting up and replacing our communication and radio system infrastructure in the North Lincoln County area. Some additional public safety and sheriff's patrols in the area, are starting to maybe see some issues with, some homes being back up there, or people doing site built homes or getting manufactured homes back up there, but there's still not a lot of residents back up in those areas. There's some potential for some issues and crime and stuff, which we don't want. $1 million for basically road maintenance and rehabilitation. These are roads that kind of survived the initial process but are being beat up pretty heavily. In the rebuilding process, they just were not meant to have this much heavy equipment going through them. Scroll down here, and I think that was all of the stuff for Lincoln County directly in that bill. There was several state asks, things like for additional planners, one of which would come to Lincoln County, safe drinking water stuff, state funding that would come in to help with septic systems. So there were some other packages within this that certainly would help us. But the money wouldn't directly come to Lincoln County, it would come to an agency to kind of do those programs. We also had a $5 million ask that we made previously for housing for fire survivors. All of the housing requests across the state got kind of pulled out of this funding package. And my understanding is they're going to be shoved into another one, potentially. So I did testify on that Friday. And I guess we'll just kind of see how it goes. So as Council Belmont said earlier, we are working really hard on still trying to solve some of these issues. We're going to get funding to do those things. We also intend, although my understanding is just right before this meeting, the guidance changed, but we also intend to put some requests into the federal government under congressionally directed spending, which used to be called earmarks. Although, as I said, I guess the guidance just changed. And so some of those projects may or may not fit. I need to go back through and see what that new guidance is. So that's all I have for now.
All right, thank you for that. Questions or comments, Commissioner Hall?
None at this time. The wheels of the legislative process, we all know they grind, and sometimes not as quickly as we would wish, but it sure sounds like the positive momentum is good, and that a lot of things still moving through the process. So I hope people are encouraged by that. Thank you.
Yes, I would agree that instead of management by crisis, it seems like we're in a mode of a little bit of planning and looking to the future and trying to address long-term problems with long-term solutions. So all good information, and again, I think it's a positive reflection. As you said, Commissioner Hall, sometimes it takes a little while, but things seem to be moving in a good direction. If there's nothing more on the fire, we'll go to commissioner reports, and Commissioner Hall, I'll let you go first.
I really don't have anything to add beyond what's already been discussed. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You're quite welcome. Commissioner Jacobs.
Yeah, I would just say that not so much a report, but just another thought about wildfires. We are in the process of the county of doing our wildfire readiness. We had a red flag warning here a couple weeks ago in April. Wildfire season, I guess you could say, was already upon us, or is already upon us, or is coming. But it's a reminder to people, to be ready. I think last year was certainly a really rude awakening to all of us that we certainly do have wildfires and bad ones on the coast. So, just a thought to everybody to be ready, review what those red, yellow, green, metrics are, all that stuff. It's time that we, refresh our memories and prepare again, unfortunately.
Good advice for all. I'm going to report on the meeting that I participated in at roughly 1 o'clock this early afternoon. And it had to do with an update on the Back West wave energy site that is just off the coast of Newport. And I was a member of the committee that advocated for selecting that site over a site, if my memory serves me, that was off of Reedsport. That was when I was a brand new commissioner. And the Newport site was selected in 2013. And amongst other things, permitting has been taking place since that time. And state and federal permits were issued earlier this year. And the Back West group, which is affiliated with Oregon State University, is now ready to proceed with construction of the grid connection to the test site off of our coast. And I hesitate to say it's the only grid-connected test site in the United States, but it's one of very few, if not the only one, that is actually grid-connected. And I don't know, Commissioner Jacobson, you may know that fact one way or another.
Yeah, so grid connected means that you're actually putting the power that the devices are making back into the actual power grid. So there have been tests going, in fact, we've had tests off of Newport where the actual energy was basically dumped onto a floating platform. So the grid connection piece is really important because you get data and information from putting power back on the grid that is difficult, to get otherwise. Additionally, if we're talking about research and development, you kind of need to be grid connected in a test mode before you're able to, go to commercial use.
Yeah, absolutely. So the construction is starting. They're going to do directional boring. I can only imagine what it's like if you're going a mile offshore, but apparently the technology is there. The construction site will be at the Driftwood State Park, which will, for roughly 10 months of the year, the remainder of the year, close that state park while that construction is concluded, but there'll be a vault built in the ground underneath what will be the new parking lot, replacing the old parking lot. And then there will be a building that will have all of the monitoring and the actual connection into the Lincoln County PUD grid. So in a year, if all goes smoothly, that construction will be completed. The only thing that you'll see in the new Driftwood State Park parking lot would be a couple of manhole covers over the vaults and the ability to actually test wave generation equipment and have that electricity fed into the PUD power supply or grid will be able to take place. So been a long time coming. Permitting is a onerous process whenever you've got multiple agencies involved, but it's nice to see the construction actually starting some, 7 or 8 years after that site was actually selected. So it'll be interesting to see when the first power flows into the PUD grid sometime a year and a half from now. And with that, if there are no more commissioner reports, we'll move on to public comment. And again, this is where we'll show the public comment that we've received is either posted or compacted into the STR comments. There's the public input from the smart forms. And then we'll see the consolidated line item on the county website. Yeah, we're getting there. I don't think it's there. Should be a. It's there. We see it every week. There's, keep going, keep going, keep going. There you go. Combined input, 5/3/2021. That's where the input that we've received since the last Board of Commissioners meeting relative to STRs is available for viewing by the public. All right, if there's nothing more, we will be recessing into an executive session. First executive session will be pursuant to ORS 192.660 parentheses 2 parentheses H to discuss litigation. And I understand, Council Belmont, we may or may not be coming back into public session.
Actually, we will not be coming back into public session for either of these executive sessions.
Okay. All right, well, that clarifies one issue. So after the executive session on litigation, we will recess into executive session under ORS 192.660 parentheses 2 parentheses D to discuss labor negotiations. And as you just heard, we will not be coming back into public session. So our next meetings that will have a quorum of commissioners present involve the interviews for the director of our Health and Human Services Department. Those will be taking place at 9 o'clock and 3 o'clock in Wednesday, May 12th. Board of Commissioners will meet again on Monday, May 17th at 3 p.m. And on Tuesday, May 18th, the Lincoln County Budget Committee will be meeting at 6 p.m. So with that, I will recess into executive session pursuant to ORS 192.660.2 parentheses 2 parentheses H to discuss litigation. And then you will follow that with an executive session pursuant to 192.660 parentheses 2 parentheses D to discuss labor negotiations. And I show it's 4:05, so let's take a 5-minute recess and reconvene.